Alright, after that, pleasant talk with Samael, let's use the gift that he has right given us, the Shadow Flight, to progress. Like I said, these will not, allows us to fly. The description says it's a double jump, but I strongly disagree with that and say it's just a simple glide after a double jump.
Yeah, I was about to say, I see it in action, and it's like he doesn't even really rise up with the double tap. It's
No,
well,
it's
okay,
very
okay. I
situational.
guess there's like that. I guess there's like that little somersault that they count that as part of a double jump, but it
But
doesn't
you could
seem
already
well
do that.
elevated.
You could already do that
Oh,
before. Anyway, the point is that these particular geysers, called shadow currents, of course, allow you to perform the classic, flight up maneuver, so you can move on. Again, simple tech when it comes to, gliding puzzles. Big firewalls and
I
a
know
couple
we
of these.
I know we probably haven't seen all this game as stuff yet, though. One thing I have noticed while doing a bit of non-spoilery research of Darksiders is that a lot of fans seem to debate between the gameplays of the games so far released in the series,
Yes.
which, to be fair, that's typical of any franchise, but I've heard some people suggest that apparently, okay, obviously, each game focuses on a different horseman, but apparently with that, comes different gameplay styles
Yes.
to the point where some would argue that they feel like completely different games.
That's because they
Is
kind
that
of
true?
are. At their core, they're still okay. At least the first three. At their core, they still are action games with RPG elements. But the way they actually differ in details is actually, fairly significant. Again, this first one is more akin to classic, God of War / Devil May Cry type of action. Darksiders 2 is more akin to Diablo, Blizzard type of games like Diablo and World of Warcraft, just without the MMO component for obvious reasons. But you get the stuff like the colored loot, that you have, you can customize for your entire equipment and everything. Yeah, Darksiders 3 is a Souls-like, because of course that was the thing that was in at the time. Genesis
So we went
instead,
from
and Genesis is a twin-stick shooter.
what?
I mean, after all, you control Stripe in that one, so it kind of makes sense that you will be able to do that. It was either
Is Genesis counted?
it was either that or a third-person shooter, so I can kind of imagine why they did that.
Also, I noticed the lack of a number in Genesis's title. Is it still
Not sure
counted as
why.
Darksiders
Yes,
4, or is it more of a spin-off?
No,
Okay, then.
it's still considered. That wasn't because it's a prequel to the entire franchise. Not necessarily that it details all of the origins, but it tells us, oh, it's just a side activity that Stripe and War did while they were still, working on the console before the destruction of the seals. There you go. It's basically, by the way, this happened just so you can also have a game where you play properly with Stripe.
So then that means the next game should be the one that finally has all the horsemen meeting, I
Supposedly,
guess.
unless they want to count this next game as a proper third-person shooter with Stripe, but I kind of doubt that. Again, I get the idea that THQ Nordic just wants to have at least a bit of closure with the franchise point, especially because Genesis is a couple of years old at this point, so they probably, if I had to guess, they probably just want to, get this done with.
So going from a hack and slash God of War game to what I assume must be isometric if it plays like Diablo or
No,
your
only for the loot system. Otherwise, he plays similar instead to this, third-person action, game, just with a more emphasis on the RPG elements and the loot.
Interestingly enough, I've heard some people compare Darksiders 2 to a Zelda format of sorts
No,
as well.
like I said, I mentioned this in part one, but the first three games are all sharing common things with Zelda to an extent. The second game more so than the others. But I argue also this one, like I said, it has a structure a bit similar to Ocarina of Time, to the point where its main dungeons reflect the temples from Ocarina of Time, as we will see in the next part, basically.
So in a sense, all four games combined, in a sense, give that feeling of a Zelda structure. I will say this, it's kind of admirable that despite going to let's be honest, apparently completely different genres with each title, that this series still does have enough of a fan base in that regard.
That's mostly because we have to remember, up until the point this first game was made, 2010, the old THQ was mostly known for licensed products and relatively fine but not super popular game like Destroy All Humans, Deadly Creatures on the Wii, Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, for example, and a couple of others that did had, they're not necessarily a full fan base, but a substantial amount of fans, but they were not super in high production. This was one of the games that they were making in order to bolster their IPs with a more significant type of production in mind. And lo and behold, a few years after this, they went bankrupt because they flew too close to the sun and made their stupid fucking tablet. Also, what happened with Homefront, as I discussed when we did a commentary of that.
God, the tablet. I think that was around the time where some game companies were starting to question, should we really rely on games? Maybe the true secret to success is in merchandise, something that would affect even GameStop to this day. It's not to say merchandise does not have a selling factor. Shoot, there are some franchises that sell purely off of merchandise, but
yeah, but when you have
I think
a store chain where you're saying at this point more merchandise than the actual games, you probably should start asking some questions.
And again, so Darksiders was meant to be THQ's big, maybe not mascot, but their big revitalizing one.
Yes, like a new fresh start and a bolstering IPs, which was happening kinda around the same time. Remember, this was the time where EA Games was also promoting a bunch of new IPs for themselves, like Dante's Inferno, Dead Space, Mirror's Edge, Army of Two, and so on. And if I recall correctly, a couple of other companies were trying to do that. Of course, there was Yoko Taro with Nier and Square Enix, even though that was more of a spin-off of Drakengard. But you get what I mean. Still trying to have something new going on, even in times when that felt maybe a bit bleak. I don't remember what Sega was doing around this time. It was
Aren't they doing that new Golden Axe game of theirs?
Beast Rider. Well, yeah, I'm talking about a new IP, probably. Maybe Alpha I guess Alpha Protocol, but nobody remembers that.
It was certainly a game of the time, and that's all I can really say.
It's buggy as hell, but I appreciated the effort. But there was, I guess, binary domain from the Ryoga team, I guess. But you get what I mean. Around this time, specifically 2010 and early 2010s, a lot of companies wanted to not necessarily cut things off completely with the past, even if auto mentality was there, but to create new products for the generation in order to bolster their range of IPs. And again, this was THQ attempt to that, just having the ball in its court thanks to Joe Madureira pitching this kind of idea. Anyway. More important things at the end, let's wake up also this Golden Gate.
I have come for the Destroyer.
My brother spoke.
You realize the Destroyer is you within.
Your brother spoke of my what?
I cannot help you.
Any curse.
Yes, your brother is very forthcoming. It makes us very uncomfortable.
These servants of the Destroyer walk unseen with.
He should have phrased it better then, shouldn't he?
The Shadow Realm?
By their blood we are bound.
Oh, cool, we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Shall we be free?
The English version specifically.
So basically, translation: kill enough enemies and we'll let you through.
If only it was that simple. So, thankfully, we don't really need a gadget or anything. We're just confining the cemetery area, and the golem will generously allows us to, walk through the Shadow Realm.
What hope have we now against the Destroyer's foul sorcery?
Hope will not bring you freedom.
Hold the edge.
Don't you see, hope is just for the weak.
I'm
Even though...
Jesus, I thought there was a better way than to burp in my face. This is fucking Catwoman.
It did look like he was burping in his face, Jesus. But yeah, no, this definitely has a lot of that late 2000s, early 2010s Edge. Which, yeah, to be fair,
Again,
2000s
as
Edge
a
was a thing,
reminder,
but
you know, former Image comic artist and writer. Anyway, so
Yep,
what
I
does
can
this
see
translate
it.
to? Find these glowing portals, enter them, and in each of them you need to resolve to solve a combat trial. Again, classic Zelda, you know, formula in between dungeons.
speaking of Diablo,
Well, okay, let's start with this one to telling us the rules. In this one, you need to defeat 5 enemies while they're in, you know, one in midair, so you need to launch them up. In theory, these combat trials also help you with getting accustomed more to your combat maneuver, which, you know, it's not too bad. Shut up. It's not too bad, but the problem is that they can get kinda, you know, annoying because they take so much longer, and this is not the only case where you will have to do it. You know, there will be other, like, 1 or 2 occasions, I forgot how many in total, where you need to resolve a bunch of other combat trials, and it feels like the game is just padding at that point.
I love
I
to
said,
imagine-
this is one of those games where it's probably better enjoyed to be playing on your own, at your own pace, rather than to, you know, commenting on. While the story is actually kind of interesting to look at, when it comes to just the pure gameplay, it is one of those things that not a lot of people remember these days, but a lot of character action, you know, games like Devil May Cry and God of War did have a lot of these moments where not much happened outside of you fighting enemies over and over and over again. Again, even Spyro could not escape that in the Legend of Spyro trilogy.
I guess the difference is that Devil May Cry at least got updated so that it's more bearable in this day and age. That said, I gotta love the in-story merit for this. Yes, you must prove you are worthy by showing if you are stylish enough to combo a fiend in the air enough. That will show you are truly the hero of the story.
Couldn't I just prove myself worthy by just killing the enemies straight up? No.
No, you have to do it with the utmost of style.
It's kind of like require a specific key, and this is also where my editing starts to become a bit more prevalent. Basically, in order to save us from literal minutes of war clunging his fat ass, you know, into from one place to another, I'll just cut the fat out and just keep, you know, the part where he arrives at the destination.
Style's overrated. I'm not that Dan T fellow.
Well, sorry, that's the rulebook that God left
Alright,
for us.
this
In
one is
his
more-
apps.
This is more, you know, straightforward. Defeat as much as all the enemies in the established, you know, 40 enemies in 3 minutes. So this is easy. Even if, you know, more sturdy enemies will appear, obviously, as you can imagine, there's a bit of an escalation. This is still, you know, fairly doable.
Look, we're sorry, War. The rulebook that God left us is that his champions must indeed show the utmost of style, skill, and grace. You cannot afford to be a disgrace.
Clearly.
Sure.
Honestly,
So,
I can imagine it's more of a case where, you know, the watcher is actually, you know, deciding the rules and it's just for his own amusement at this point.
Okay, that would actually be a neat way to show his more
But
dickish
that's my
side, I guess.
headcanon. Nothing suggests that that's actually
Yeah.
what's happening.
Would you say, for the most part, these challenges are fair, or would you say that quite a bit will resort to, like, fake difficulty?
They're fine. I've seen much worse, including in Devil May Cry games, for example. You can tell this is a bit more casual, especially, you have to remember, I'm playing on normal, so as you can imagine, easy mode makes things even more, you know, of a cakewalk when you get down to it. So, no, it's not really the hardest part of that, of this thing that you have ever played, also these combat trials. Again, they're just, you know, a test of patience because they just keep going. Thankfully, the second game will not have them. It will have a way for you to test your skills if you want. But trust me, the second game has its own specific way of, consuming your time.
That's actually a good segue back to my question from earlier in this part here. Like, okay, so THQ had planned for this series to be their big moneymaker. So I'm curious, were the different gameplay styles for each game always part of the plan? Like, okay,
Seems
obviously they weren't
case,
planning the Souls one. But
I don't know
yeah.
if it was the idea of Joe Madureira or, the actual gameplay development team that, wanted to do this. But I get the idea they wanted to inject some personality into each Horseman instead of making them Shoto clones, which I get it.
Not only that, but I presume also that the strategy would have been, hey, make a different gameplay style to attract even more fans into the series altogether and whatnot.
This one is also relatively easy. Kill 50 enemies before your health reaches 0 and someone is farted, so there's poison gas all over the place. Mind you, this does not exempt you from recovering health if you want, so this is really not too big of a deal.
Yeah, so far it really does seem like you said just about a patience. Like, I'll admit, I would think someone like War might move a bit more quicker than he does in this game. Granted, maybe some of that is due to
compensated by his
technical
range,
limitations and whatnot. But yeah, he does have good range. It really is just about of speed, honestly. It seems like for the most part, going off of the challenges we've seen so far, it's not like they feel impossible. It's really just about of, having the patience and time for
Pretty
them.
much. Also, if you noticed, a lot of War's signature moves are also, taken from someone or something else. He has a batter up move for some reason. I guess he has to be a fan of baseball or something. He has Dante's Stinger. I haven't really shown it yet, but trust me, will become more important later on as a, attack move. And also, this one you might have noticed, he has the spinning rotation, this one in midair that was popularized by the Star Wars game on the Super Nintendo.
In fact, actually, very popular from Sonic and the Black Knight.
Well, like I said, the progenitor that really made it popular was Star Wars, because, the games made it a tech option, and it was so appreciated and so stylish that not just games decided to take advantage of it, but, as you can imagine, also the movies and cartoons incorporated that, into the more, frantic action scenes.
But of course.
Alright, I don't think I talked about the score just yet. Let me give a quick check on who was the composer because I forgot about this.
It's got 3 composers actually.
Alright, I forgot. They did actually got one of the composer from the God of War games just to reinforce a bit, the fact that they wanted. I forgot which one specifically. I think it was
Chris Velasco.
Chris Velasco, yeah, there you go. Which, to be fair, has done also other stuff, like some of the Mass Effect games, for example.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
honestly. He did this. He did. He was one of the guys who scored, or at least was involved in Gunman Chronicles.
Good for him.
Interesting.
His most recent effort was on the Lords of the Fallen reboot in 2023, and the score was not really the worst part of that.
This game definitely does seem like it would fit his wheelhouse, although I will admit this game does seem to be falling into that category of very atmospheric. We'll put in music when we feel like it, otherwise enjoy just hearing the hollowed echoes of your character hacking and slashing enemies to bits.
I mean, considering he's voiced by Liam O'Brien, I'm not complaining, but Also, one thing that you might notice is that for these mid-level blue enemies, the execution maneuver where War does the swooping motion can also in fact hit also the other enemies, so you can use it as a combo potentially to inflict some extra damage in for some crowd control.
Very nice.
Shut up!
But he's giving you positive reinforcement for once.
Somehow I don't believe him.
Come on, you can trust someone voiced by Mark Hamill.
Okay.
Isn't that right, Zuko?
Jesus.
As for Mike Reagan, he's done a few scores for TV shows such as Wow Wow Wubsy.
What a name.
A bunch of shorts based on Ape Escape.
Oh, right.
Oh my.
Yeah.
The 2016 Powerpuff Girls.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't remember the score being the worst part of that, so I guess there's that.
Counterpoint, I don't recall the score really at all from
No,
that.
but, you know, considering the quality of everything else, I think it's the bar is just that low.
Among others. As far as video games, he first did a score for a game called Villains' Revenge from Disney.
Yeah, I remember the marketing of that when it
That
came
game,
out.
yeah.
I think it's a point-and-click
CD-ROM, I
title.
believe.
And Xena Warrior Princess, the video
The
game.
one on the N64 where it's terrible, where, you know, Xena has to, it's basically on a time mission, you know, to rescue Gabrielle.
Jesus.
A couple of EA Sports games, NHL and NBA, Twisted
him.
Metal Black and Twisted Metal Small Brawl.
You're more familiar with the games themselves. Do you remember how the score of those was?
I haven't played either of those.
Oh,
I don't think Small Brawl
Oh,
even
really?
got a. I don't think Small Brawl even got a release in Europe.
Oh, wow.
God, those were the times, weren't they?
Yeah, there was the 2004 Van Helsing game.
I haven't tried
then-
it, but people told me that it's basically stocky, like fine, but nothing excelsior.
There's a bunch of the God of War games, and its most recent game credit, at least on Wikipedia, is Life is Strange Before the Storm.
Oh God, right, he did do the music for that thing. I mean, okay, I mean, that game and its plot are incredibly bad and hilarious, but I guess to be fair, I don't recall the music being bad, so kudos, you probably
I don't
made
recall
one of
the
the best
music at
things to
all.
come out of it. I recall some tracks working out well, but yeah.
Anyway, if you notice that the key for this combat trial is to destroy all enemies just using their execution maneuvers. Again, as you can see, it just requires, you know, a bit of maneuver, but still doable. The biggest, you know, factor in this is your health. You may notice, but there are no such things as invincibility frames when it comes to you being hit. So potentially, if someone pummels on you or uses a powerful attack, your health can go from, you know, top to near bottom in mere seconds if you don't pay attention.
Does the game give you good workarounds like dodges or
Yes,
counter maneuvers?
you may have noticed that the war does have a dash maneuver that functions as a dodge, but I don't think it has invincibility frame on it, but it's just enough for you to avoid the attack if you want. It's nothing like
I
the
do recall-
Phantom Dash in Rift Apart in case you're wondering.
Yeah. I was wondering if he might have set anything else or potentially counter moves, since he seems like a guy who would be all about counters as well.
It can get a counter, but again, it's the standard God of War stuff, and I don't think I have it yet. I don't remember
enough.
exactly, you know, if or when I get it. So. And there you go.
My preference in these kinds of games is, look, give me a good enough dodge and counter maneuver, and I can say most things are probably fair at least.
In case you're wondering, oh, there it is. Actually, I forgot about it, but I get it now.
Oh, well, speak and you shall receive.
No, shut the fuck up! Holy shit!
You know, this really does feel like the prototype for Arkham Knight. Mark Hamill is your companion, whether you like it or not. It helps because our protagonist is dark, bulky, and brooding, too.
There you go. Once you're done, the Watcher at least, you know, puts himself to use and tells you, you know, that was everyone, so, you know, let's get back to the golem and get it done.
Also, who the hell made the tombstones that gigantic that they dwarf even War himself?
Welcome to Image Comic Art Style, Jova. You must be new here.
I mean, okay, I'm familiar with Spawn, who has that massive cape, but Jesus.
It was the style of Image Comics of the time, you know, make everything bulky, practical, but, you know, super cool as a result, like the pouches and stuff.
So now that I've solved his quest, where does he go now?
Doesn't matter. What's important is that the road ahead of us is clear. And he also gives us, there you go, so one announcement which I did forget to put. Basically, these are small perks that do help you with, you know, minor things, like, for example, giving more damage to objects that you throw, or just, you know, a bit of an extra boost to your attacks.
Knock, knock.
It's, well, yeah, he's red enough to be Knuckles. Okay, now I have to question who made these fucking, you know, tube tunnels, because again, this is still supposed to be Earth. The demons did not do this.
Yeah, apparently somebody decided to expand the sewers to this immense length, because one minute we're going through what's clearly a sewer pipe, but now we're in a place big enough to have cars in it?
I guess this is a tunnel, but yeah, this is not a proper tunnel, but the sewer that he used to get there felt way too big. Yes,
not only that, the sewer that we used to get here was above the cars. That's kind of unusual for a sewer system.
Yeah, this can't be Knuckles. Liam O'Brien voiced Infinite.
I missed that.
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I say
if
voiced because he's not in you know
the Chaotic Case files.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Liam O'Brien does eventually maybe voice Knuckles for whatever reason.
Well,
apparently he doesn't like Sonic, so
yeah, like again.
Wait, really?
No, that was the reason why he did not return as Infinite. They did ask him and he politely said no. Like, at this point he's in a position where he can choose actually what to voice and what not, and as we've said, he doesn't particularly care about Sonic. And again, after hearing, you know, even a more casual way thanks to stuff like, you know, Critical Role, yeah, I can see why you say that.
What is it like? He figures himself too cool for the Bluebird?
No, you know, not much like me, particularly does not care about the franchise, even if he knows about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it can't because of union issues. Because if I checked, Sonic series has been using union voice actors for at least a good few years.
Just between you and me, and I guess the audience, because we're still recording, I do wonder if maybe the actual reason why he's not feeling comfortable having to work with Sega, considering their policy about, you know, still keeping people like Mike Pollock in voicing, but who knows.
I honestly don't know. But yeah, no, like, it's funny, because even before Infinite, he was Zaz as well, where he does a completely different voice for that. Like, I'll admit, for a while, Liam O'Brien was an actor whose regular voice I had a hard time pegging because he's just done so many different voices to the point where you recognize him more for his fanciful voice, his fanciful posh voice than his regular voice.
Yeah, he's Steve Curry fresh on this, as I said, for Nier.
Yeah, and to some extent this, like, it's obviously not as refined as Nier, but it seems to be going in the same direction as Nier's voice,
he was basically also the start at the time. Around this time he was also voicing, again, Grimar Weiss. For the Cydia, for the DSs in the 3D version of Final Fantasy IV and the Cydia 12, he voices Kane Highwind for Final Fantasy IV, and he really fits the role, if you ask me. And also, of course, there was Azra's Wrath, the role that almost costed his vocal cords.
Yeah. Oh boy, so he got to join Samael in that club, eh?
It was really dedicated, but apparently he said that he did like that role instead. Really wish they will actually release the game so more people will know about that. But again, I don't even know if it's a case where CyberConnect 2 needs to be okay with it.
God, legal issues can be such a pain these days. From what I understand, what this series is essentially a now decades-long plan spanning from a company that's now long since dead to essentially make the Avengers of gaming installments to lead up to the big culmination. You know, I'll admit, it's kind of a shame that it sounds now more likely that that culmination will be the end rather than just the end of, like, the first chapter, because I can presume they probably had plans to have...
Arguably, the conclusion that was supposed to be, is going to be teased at the end of this game, and supposedly it's the one we're heading for the 5th game, does seem to be like a definitive end because of the way it's actually structured. But again, to elaborate more would be spoilery, so we need to get towards, you know, the end. Again, it's pretty clear to me that the idea from the beginning was still to have, you know, this sets up what the initial confrontation and teases up what the final one will be, and the other 3 horse rider rider games will actually, you know, be how do the others get to that point.
Oh, then in that case, even though they're dead, I guess I have to appreciate THQ Sorry, THQ! I was about to say THQ Nordic, but yeah. I have to appreciate THQ for not wanting to just blatantly cash grab. Like, obviously they were making this series to make more money, bolster them back up, but I can appreciate that they had an end goal in sight, and it wasn't like they were going to forever mooch off of Darksiders.
That doesn't seem to be...
At least as far as the plan was.
Once again, though, we have to remember, they declared bankruptcy just a few years after the release of this game. If anything, again, they were probably planning this to be a yearly release, because Darksiders 2 came out not too long after this, and what I wouldn't say that it kind of shows, but it has the kind of thing that I said that it's held together with scotch tapes, basically. So
yeah, I was gonna ask, who's okay? Do they like have some of the original ideas people keeping these ideas intact and whatnot?
Yes,
or...
the Joe Madureira did not return, as far as I know, for the 3rd game. He just gave a basic consultancy and, you know, a thumbs up of approval. But he did return for Genesis as like a director or one of the writers, I forgot, and proper art design. So he's probably just also equally on board for the 5th game.
Coolio. Again, I appreciate that the vision is kept intact, and I do hope we at least get that culmination, no matter how the road to it is. Like I know that the series has fans, so give them that at least.
Yeah, it's similar to a couple other APs. You know, it's pretty clear that it probably won't be super satisfying, and it will not be perfect in the slightest, but at the very least, it will be a conclusion, you know. To go March Simpson,
hear that, Legends 3? Hear that, Mega Man Legends 3?
Sorry, Jover.
You know,
you can actually, he cannot hear you, Jover, because he's on the moon.
You know the thing about Legends 3 is, I think some fans would have probably even been willing to give up, but no, they had to do the not Kickstarter thing, since this was at a time where Kickstarters were in their infancy, but they had to do that stupid, creators site thing, you know, then proceed to not tell anyone, oh yeah, the traffic to that will determine whether or not this thing lives or dies, and then go, well, sorry, you didn't support it enough, even with fans not knowing that was the case.
It's also worth noting that at the time, you know, people on the internet were, and especially, you know, when it comes to gaming, were not as prevalent as today. While they were definitely in a rise, companies definitely did not have enough of, you know, measuring a metric, nor did they have the tools to do so. So, you know, I can kind of understand. It's also one of the reasons why instead Sega went on a copyright strike spree in 2012 about Shining Force, because they were so desperate in releasing their new game Shining Arc on the PSP, in Japan only, of course. But they wanted to have the traffic on YouTube just about their new game, so they wanted to basically nuclearize everything tied to Shining Force, you know, as a result, so the road would be clean for them. Obviously, this did not work, you know, and thankfully they are better, you know, now compared to then, but it still probably was a sub-product of them just not having the other means to get to. Anyway, new big beast type, one that we faced also in the prologue, at least the type, and check this out, he wants to throw a car at me. No, please, I insist, take it back.
Behold, the power of Nissan!
sir, I say take it back, please.
I do like how you can legit just catch it and throw it back.
And if you
at
say,
him.
oh, it's too silly, I would like to remind you that one of the big inspirations from the franchise of Zelda, prides itself of having Link using stupid tools for his confrontation with Ganondorf.
Shoot, as a Breath of the Wild, he can use a motorcycle.
Well, I mean, that is still, more doable. I'm talking about stuff like the tennis match using a bottle.
Oh yeah,
Or
but don't
the
you see,
fishing
he
rod
uses a
being
sword,
quite
so it's
recent, so-
a-okay. God, the fact that the fishing rod is a viable weapon, I get the feeling that's what may have given Shovel Knight the inspiration for making the fishing rod usable as both a tool and a weapon.
Alright, now with the road clear, let's get to the hotel. If you forgot, Samael told us to seek up the high ground in the Broken Stair, and there we should find theoretically a way to get to the cathedral, where, Tiamat resides. Unfortunately, a staple also for, the games at the time, there are specifically blocked, doors with this particular emblem on it. Maybe you need to find a corresponding key. Also another thing out of Zelda, if you remember. Although, in this case, they're more stylized to be having this emblem with an eye, because, yeah, one of the couple of reasons why Sheer is not here is because, similar to God of War, there is a lot of eye mutilation in this game. So.
Yeah.
Again,
well, War,
which was the style at the time.
Well, War, just be glad that while you have to find a key, it's not on Resident Evil's level where you first gotta find a puzzle that unlocks this door, which allows you to find 2 chemicals that allows you to melt down the rocks.
Tangent to Java. Don't worry, that's what the second game is for.
Wait, really?
I mean, not to this specific extent, but the second game goes on tangents upon tangents into getting keys to progress, but it becomes comical. You'll be able to see. It basically gets to the point where even the main character, arrives at the end, but he just is so fucking fed up, and as usual for this kind of thing, I had to say, if you actually happen to write an objection of your script in it, that's usually not a good sign.
So let me get this straight. You make the immortal death of all people fed up with waiting on something. Golly.
You'll see eventually. We're still, a long way ahead from that. There you go. Oh goody, seems that the angels have also survived to some capacity.
Oh, do we have some stealth we must do now?
No, for now, we'll manage to eavesdrop despite his size.
I know, right? How did she not see him?
He's right.
Hi, Uriel.
It's there, beneath the stench of this place. You can sense it. Ancient. From neither the White City nor the Black Depths. Something lost between.
How did you not see him coming?
He's literally a gigantic gorilla of a man. Jesus. Anyway, this is your right. Still literally Grant thieving an hippogriff.
Maybe he has no peripheral vision.
You'd think that angels would have the utmost of peripheral vision, given how, well, they're angels.
Not in this game, apparently.
You want another gameplay style? Here have an auto-scroller shooter now, with lock-on mechanics. This is one of the more infamous moments in the game, because while the segment is perfectly doable with no real problem, like you really need to fuck up hard in order to lose, one of the achievements or trophies of the game is to perform a near-perfect score, which is almost impossible.
Welcome to Hellish Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, it's kind of like Panzer Dragoon when you get down to we're talking about Sega.
So, speaking of Sega, this is another comparison I can make to Shadow the Hedgehog, since it's like those, God, I think it's called a Black Dragon, or basically those black arm aliens that you can ride basically have these lock-on auto-scroller sections and whatnot.
This is who I am.
I guess the I guess the difference is that in Shadow of the Hedgehog, the government was more prepared to deal with forces beyond their control instead of whatever humans were trying here, because they seem to be wiped out.
Yeah, they were really not prepared for this kind of shit. It's even mentioned by War and the others, and the Char Council that the apocalypse got triggered so prematurely that mankind had no chance of surviving as a result.
I guess we can tell it's a bot.
The other games will actually, explore a bit more of this aspect, as in to study how humanity has fallen and if there's any hope of, bringing them back.
I guess we can tell it was a botched apocalypse because the Horseman apparently missed out on it. Again, as far as this game tells us.
Again, supposedly only War responded to the call, and even he doesn't know why, nor he knows how it happens because his memory is super scrambled. He doesn't even remember what happened in the 100-year where he was in a coma, at the Char Council's, cage, basically. So that's one thing that we'll have to find out.
To this I say, most uncool, my brothers. We had a plan for the apocalypse, and clearly that plan has gone to absolute shite. So, therefore I call for a do-over.
Nope, no do-overs.
I mean, no really, even if the seals are technically intact, so if anyone broke them, it would technically count as retriggering.
You'd think that with all his master plans, God would have a reset button just in case the apocalypse doesn't go down the way he wanted it to.
It seems that Big G seems to be either absent or asleep of some kind. The important part is that basically everyone else has to fend off for themselves, and that includes also the angels. It will be mentioned later, but basically they're not allowed to return to heaven until this thing is actually resolved on their own, so they're stuck here too.
Ooh. Okay. I'm gonna presume that as of the latest game in the series, we still don't know what's happened with God.
No, again, there are stuff in motion, but we will again it requires context that the other games provide.
I wonder if maybe the big reveal will be that they're pulling a bit of a supernatural, and while God is technically all powerful, if you're sneaky enough, you can get the drop on him, and maybe somebody else has him in prison and is running things corruptly. Or who knows? Maybe they're pulling about where God made a bet with someone else to see if the world deserves salvation or not.
Yeah, like Chakravarti in Azura's Wrath.
Yeah.
Well, technically, rather than a bet, Chakravarti was really seeking out a successor, and that's why he eventually chose Azura. At the very least, that's what the DLC tells, because as I stated, I really don't think that was the initial plan.
A good thing the lava isn't too hot for you to handle.
Well, you technically cannot walk into lava. Unfortunately, the Horsemen are cool, but not that cool. You don't really suffer from conventional convention.
Which, to be fair, I mean, look, we're all supernatural
game,
entities here. That too.
It's
but
the same reason why it's the same reason why Spyro doesn't have an air meter in Spyro 2 and 3, to facilitate things.
That said, I was kind of wondering if maybe they would play with War's element apparently being fire. Granted, I don't know if it's his element or just his weapons really heat up like that because it looks cool.
But that really could mean anything or nothing at the same time.
So they don't really apply any specific elements to each of the
No, especially
Horsemen,
because Darksiders 2 does have actual elemental affinity to the weapons that you do get, because there is a bit of rock, paper, scissors. Again, inspiration from stuff like Diablo. You please just die, thank you. There you go.
Someone was really proud of this sequence, I see.
Yeah, this is still going.
It's like, I get it. It looks neat, cinematic, but maybe we can pick up the pace just a little bit.
Or at the very least fragment it, make it, or at the very least, let yourself, regulate the speed. I get why they did that in order for you to lock on properly on the targets, but,
I feel like, you know, if you feel like that's an issue, then you should maybe cut these off and put other segments in other places, assuming that we're going to do more of this later in the game.
A spoiler alert, no, this is the only sequence like this.
So somebody really just wanted a Panzer Dragoon
Yes,
sequence.
like
Good
you
to
said,
know.
Joe, it's more of a case where the franchise does not really have a lot of original posts in its body when it comes to gameplay. It wears that fact proud on its sleeves.
But you know what? Look, if you own it, that's fair and fine, you know.
And like
That's
you said,
it.
as long
It
as
is
it's
funny.
fun to play, I don't see really the point of, why not doing it.
That too, yeah, honestly. Like, look, originality can be overrated.
Like, Lies of P is
I'm
one
not-
of the many other Souls-like games, but because, it's actually very confidently made, it's still fun to play and all. So...
True that. And like, you know, say what you will about Sonic and the Black Knight maybe taking cues from a lot of hack and slashes at the time. I enjoyed for that.
I mean, I guess it would be probably better enjoyable without the emotional controls.
The waggle, yeah. Okay, the thing is, Sonic and the Black Knight got, you know,
Oh,
the
hey, look,
right
it's
idea that...
Tiamat.
Oh.
We finally found the Cathedral of the Deep.
Hi, honey, you come here often? Thank you, Griffin, for your help. We'll let you get slaughtered by Tiamat.
No hard feelings.
Thanks, bye.
Oof.
Damn.
Again, I'm sure it will be fine.
Cue the laugh track.
I assume. Guess she wasn't up for
Shut up.
visitors today.
Come on, you know you love it.
Anyway, that's where we finally reached the cathedral of, where Tiamat resides. So tune in next time for where we venture it and see just how much of a parallel to a Zelda game this can also become. See ya.
Beautiful.
See ya.